Hello, and welcome to Still Standing, the podcast where I interview inspiring people who have stories of overcoming adversity, overcoming challenges, recovering from grief, etc. Today, I have with me James Banato. James is the maker of the film, it's a documentary, which is called Running with a Covert Narcissist. James is also a speaker and has so much valuable information about dealing with a narcissist, as he himself, unfortunately, had an experience with covert narcissism and is going to share with us how he's healed from that and information about what narcissism is, about his documentary. And I just want to thank you so much, James, for being here, for sharing your story so vulnerably, and for all of the work you're doing to educate others to prevent them from having to go through the same type of things that you have. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. Goodness gracious, what an incredible introduction.
I was thinking
Thank
could
you.
have used some work, but thank you. I really appreciate you being
Oh,
here. So,
good.
James, first of all, I just want to know about you. Who are you? What's your background as a person? I like to get to know you first.
Well, I am a videographer. My specialty is weddings, but I videotape just about everything. I've been a videographer for 35 years, and I also do documentary films. I've done four so far, and my latest one is Running with a Covert Narcissist.
Thank you for sharing that, and we will have all the links to his work, website, and all of that. So, I would love to hear what it was that inspired you to make this film.
Right. Well, like you said, I had been through it myself, and it's not an easy thing getting over a tragic situation in your life. And I'm anxious to tell you the long, hard road that
Yeah.
I took to get over it. And I'm hoping that maybe I'll inspire somebody or I'll help somebody watching your podcast. So that's my aim there to help. But I think I should say at the start that I am not a therapist. And a lot of things that I say in this interview is really opinion. So remember that opinion, opinion, opinion. So my story kind of revolves around, like you said, a covert narcissist. Now, what on earth is a covert narcissist? So, as I said, I'm a documentary filmmaker. I did a film on it. And so I do have a 2 minute trailer. And I guess now would be a great time to show the trailer for 2 minutes.
What is a covert narcissist? The simplest definition would be a person with an excessive need for admiration. They lack empathy, yet are brilliant at disguising the traits. You can go years without knowing you were cozy with a covert narcissist because they are charming. For those of you who suspect you may have one in your life, this film will arm you with knowledge from expert therapists in the field of narcissism on how to identify them and walk away.
I often refer to narcissist's number one trait as being playing the shell game. Don't look here, look over here.
Everything that they're feeling negatively about themselves, they will project onto their victims.
This is not appreciation. This is being rude.
The narcissist has a little secret, and they do not want that secret to be shared with the world.
How can you not have empathy? There has to be something inside of you. There has to be love inside of you. You were born with it.
So narcissists use a lot of tools in their tool belt. Gaslighting is commonly used by a narcissist. Gaslighting is used to shift blame.
So at the end of a relationship, or even during a relationship with a narcissist, they will start a smear campaign. They will say everything bad about you that they can think of, and they will try to convince everyone they know and everyone you know that you are the problem, not them.
I don't know how she does it, but she's like a master of deception.
Do you know what it feels like to have all your friends think that you're trash?
She's got half the world thinking I'm something I'm not.
I can certainly see that you're going through something.
There's a voice in my head telling me I'm bad.
That's the job of a narcissist, to get everyone around them out of their life, to make them feel alone.
The person in relationship with a narcissist is a very powerful person because they know.
It is a key element for narcissists to be able to control situations.
They will control you with their words. They will control you with their nonverbals. A narcissist can control you and say nothing at all.
Okay, good. So, a covert narcissist. They have a huge facade. It's very layered, it's very deep. And once you get past that facade, you're going to find a person who really doesn't like themselves very much. And they kind of project that facade in front of you so you can't see that. Okay. And they actually have very low self-esteem, which you wouldn't see because they show a person who's, oh my gosh, they've got life by the tail and you just want to be like them, and you're kind of in all of them, so to speak. Okay. But once you go past that facade and you find out who they are, it's a terrible thing, and it's not exact, and they're very difficult people to see, because they do it so well. Okay. Like for instance, um, their facade is so good, they're hard to see. I bet you that you have a covert narcissist in your life. I have a covert narcissist in my life, and everybody in this watching this podcast has a covert narcissist in their life, but they don't know it. They can't see it because they hide it so good. They make up Narcissists make up about a little bit less than 1% of the population, and there are different kinds of narcissists. We're going to be talking about covert narcissists, covert meaning under the radar, and they are the most dangerous ones. I can certainly vouch for that. So where would I start? Well, goodness gracious, let me tell you about how I feel about things, because I'm going to mention the word friendship here. And my issues with her issues with me revolved around friendship. Okay. I have many different kind of friends. I have business friends, colleagues. I have surface friends, and I have good, honest to true, real friends. And those are the people that I'm vulnerable with. I can say anything that I want with them, and they can say anything to me. And sometimes we even challenge each other. Of course, that's what good friends do. And goodness gracious, if we didn't do that, we'd all be strangers to each other. So, I always take that lead. So, like for instance, if I were having a conversation with a surface friend and they said something that I really disagreed with, I would probably, Shannon, I'd probably go, yeah, But with a real true friend, we would talk about it. I would say, now wait just a minute here. So I had this friend for about 5 years before I even knew she was a covert narcissist. I didn't even know what a covert narcissist was. All right. And we had our little squabbles, and I didn't think anything of them. I just thought it was normal stuff. She has fallacies. I certainly have tons of fallacies. I've got a million that you can count, but I didn't take a look. I wish I did. I wish I would have looked at those closely in the first couple of years of our relationship. And I noticed that she was a little quirky and defending herself. And I didn't care. I didn't care. She was my friend. And I do recall some emails that went back and forth. And she'd said some funny things. And for some reason, I blew them off, because I felt she was my friend. She had told me once, hey, you're like an inmate in an asylum, and you're like an inmate running the asylum. Okay, which is not very complimentary. And I think one time she said, well, you come to me as a friend because you're a lonely person, and you're just seeking me out because you're lonely. Now, I have tons of friends, and no one has ever told me that I'm a lonely person. So I should have clicked then, and it didn't. So we were going forward, and I belonged to a business group. Okay. And I was in this business group. I was very, very successful in it. As a matter of fact, I was an ambassador for the group. And I would bring people into the group, and I would mentor other people in this group. And it was very high rated. They rated you every month on a scale of 0 to 100. And I scored 100 every month. So I was very established in the group. And I said, you know what? I think we should bring her into the group, because I believed in her. I thought she would be a good member. And she was. For the first couple of years, we were both business owners. We did both wonderfully in the group. Okay. So there were occasional squabbles, and we always came back and, what have you. And then there was the phone call. Okay. The phone call, I don't remember it that well, but we were having a conversation, and God knows how it happened, but I stumbled onto the fact that I'm altruistic. All right. And I like helping people. All right. That's my nature to do that. As I was saying this, she stopped me mid-sentence. I remember this very well. She said, James, stop talking. Listen, these altruistic things that you do, they're not for other people. They're to make you feel good about yourself. And I shrugged it off, and the telephone conversation went somewhere else, and we hung up the phone. And then I sat and thought about what she said. And I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to let this slide. I know who I am. When I care about somebody, or if I do something for somebody, it's from the heart. Okay. It's because I want to do that. It's not for me. It's for them. And I need to tell her this. And I considered it for a day or two. And I contemplating, should I call her back? And I said, yes, I'm going to call her back. That decision to call her back was the worst decision of my entire life, because my life was just about to really get terrible. Okay. The next couple of days in the business group, she was just treating me like dirt. And I challenged her on it again. I called her and goes, hey, what's going on here? I've known you for 5 years. What has changed about you? What's happening? And she was very, very abrupt. And it wasn't a good second phone call that we had. And she emailed me. She goes, I'm going to get you thrown out of the group, out of the business group. Very strange email. I went, okay. And for the next couple of days, she made it very, very difficult for me to function. And before you know it, yeah, I got a phone call from membership saying, there's been a complaint against you. Of course, I knew who it was from. And they said, we need to address this. Now, I know the rules and regulations very well. I had been with this group for years and years and years. I was an ambassador. I knew about when two members have a conflict. You bring the two together and you try and iron it out. And I was all for that. Okay. But it was during COVID. All right. And we had to do it on Zoom, which was fine. And I actually knew the leader of membership extremely well. He was a very good friend of mine. Quite frankly, those were probably the best two friends I had in the whole group. It was like 30 plus people. My covert narcissist, I didn't know was a covert narcissist at the time, and the leader of membership. So I felt very comfortable coming into this meeting. And we get on Zoom, and there's those little squares, and I don't see her. And the leadership of membership, oh, she's not coming. And I went, well, this is kind of strange. How are we going to resolve this conflict if only one of the two members is here? And I went on, and they had paper in front of them, which apparently was the complaint letter against me. And they said, James, you're really going to have to shape up. You're going to have to be professional in this group. We are a professional group. And I went, okay. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting to hear what my crime was. Okay. They never told me. And I couldn't believe it. I said, well, how am I supposed to defend myself against whatever this crime I did? And you're not going to tell me what it is. And he goes, well, no, you just need to be more professional. And I said, from what? How am I not professional? Was probably the strangest meeting that I've ever been to. Of course, it was on Zoom, but nevertheless, here it was, the other party wasn't there, and they wouldn't tell me what my crime was, or what the complaint was about. So the meeting ended, and I actually called the leader of membership, because he was a friend of mine. And I said, hey, what's going on here? You know, it was giving me like one syllable answers, and I go, something is going on here. And he basically, it was a very short phone call, and he said, we'll make our decision about you. We'll make a decision soon. I went, okay. And I really started to get uneasy. uneasy. I was like, am I in a dream? My two best friends in the group are doing this crazy thing that with this complaint, and they won't tell me. A couple of nights later, I get an email right around midnight, a midnight email from the leadership from the leader of the membership committee. He said, "You're out. All right, you're out of the group," and didn't explain why. And he just said to the other members, the other 30 plus members, James Banato is no longer a member of this group. And it was then that I fell into a very, very deep depression. I was very depressed for, I can't communicate to you how depressing it was, because first of all, I loved that group. I really did all that I could to support that group, and I was a good, solid member, and everybody knew that. And I couldn't understand why the two people, of all the people, the last two people I thought would have done this would be those two people. And I got really, really depressed, and I had phone calls and emails and text messages coming in. James, you're not with the group anymore. I know you didn't resign. You love this group. And I go, no, I didn't resign. I was dismissed. James, what did you do? How does James Banato get thrown out of this group? You score 100, you're an ambassador, you mentor people, you're an incredible member. How did you did you kill someone? I said, no, I didn't kill somebody. He says, well, what did you do? And I said, they never told me. And that's when the red flags went up with everybody. Like, yeah, sure. They terminated James and they didn't tell him why. Right. What is he hiding? So it was that point where all of the rapport I had with the group and the relationships that I built was flushed down the toilet within a minute. My reputation was mud. All right. All of a sudden, I was the black sheep of this business group, and I was tossed out. They got rid of the black sheep. And I fell deeper into depression. People were calling me, and I knew my number was up. I said, I'm really screwed here. And I did nothing. What happened? I wanted to know what was in that letter. And I couldn't find out what. To this day, I don't know what was written to me about me.
Wow.
I still don't know. Nope, don't know. So a little bit down further the road, another member called me, and it was actually a business call. It was about one of my documentary films about marketing and everything. And we're having a conversation. At the end of the conversation, she says, oh, by the way, James, I'm very sorry that you're out of the group. And I went, yeah, so am I. And she goes, well, of course, you didn't give membership any option. They had to fire you. And I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean that? And he goes, I read the complaint letter against you. There's email evidences. There's evidence of emails you wrote to her. I said, what emails did I write to her that could possibly get me thrown out? I know I didn't do anything. He goes, oh, no. If I were in membership, I would have fired you too, James. And I said, why? And he goes, because I saw and he goes, well, can you tell me what was written about me? Please tell me. Maybe I can defend myself with you. And she goes, no, I don't need you to defend yourself. I read the emails. I saw the evidence. I would have kicked you out too. And that's that. And we had a shouting match because I was really upset. I says, what are you calling me for and saying I would have fired you too? And then you're not telling me and I was angry at her, and that did not end up well. And it was either the next day or the day after where I got seriously ill. I was in my house, and in the hallway right in the front door, I was in the interior, and I had a stomach. My abdomen hurt so bad that I collapsed in front of the front door, and I couldn't move. I actually thought I was going to die. The pain was so bad. Now, I've had 2 kidney stones, and those kidney stones were nothing compared to the pain that I felt. I really thought, I said, this is it. And now, The time was 1:45. How did I know that it was 1:45? Because at 2 o'clock, my wife was coming home from work. And also, I had a videographer friend coming over at 2 o'clock to borrow a camera lens from me. So I said, well, good. In 15 minutes, one of the two people or both of them will be here, and they'll find me laying in the hallway. And they came almost at the same time. And they called the ambulance, and the ambulance took me to the hospital. Now, I'm going to skip over the hospital portion of this story, because the hospital was not great. They weren't terribly awful, but they were not good at all. And I don't want to say the name of the hospital. And if you've noticed, I've not said the names of the two people involved, and I've not said the name of the business group, nor will I. But to make a long story short, they gave me some fluids, and I was able to at least sit up and function a little bit. And believe it or not, I had to go to a radiology center the next day to get a CT scan of my stomach, of my abdomen area. And when I arrived, the most wonderful, kindest radiology technician greeted me. And he was so nice to me, and he was so calming. He said, yes, Mr. Bonato, we're going to do a CT scan. We're going to put you in this chamber. All right. And we're going to put some dye into you. And it's going to be really, really warm. And you're going to feel some discomfort, but don't worry, I'm here. And he talked to me while I was in the chamber, and it was finished. And he was so kind. He goes, okay, go into the waiting room. You can get dressed now and just wait for me. It takes me about 10 minutes to make the CD, and I'll be back in a jiffy. So just relax. And he was so calming, and I'm waiting there. He comes in 10 minutes. He comes storming into the room with a CD and goes, Mr. Bonato, you need to get to the hospital right now. Get to the hospital right now. Can you drive there? And I said, yes, I drove here. It's hard for me to stand, but I can drive. He goes, get to the hospital right now to the surgeon and show him the CD. And I said, goodness gracious, what's going on? So I got to and by the way, it was a different hospital. I didn't go to the same hospital. And I'm in line for the emergency front desk, and I'm about 9th in line or something. And the technician, he was so nice. He texted me on the phone, and he said, have you seen the surgeon yet? And I said, no, I'm 9th in line. And he goes, Mr. Bonato, cut to the front of the line. Go right to the front desk and say you need to be seen first. And I says, I'm not going to do that. There's 9 people in front of me. The guy who's 4th in line is holding his eyes, got like blood dripping out. I'm not going to butt in line. So about a half an hour later, he texts me again. Have you seen the surgeon? I said, no, I haven't seen the surgeon, but I've passed the emergency desk. I now have that little wristband with my name on it, and I have my room, and the surgeon will be here very, very soon. So he stopped texting. Then the surgeon comes in, and goodness gracious, Shannon, this is my hero. This is my personal hero, this surgeon, the most wonderful guy in the world. He walked in with aplomb, and he said, Mr. Bonato, I've seen your CT scan. Let me ask you a few questions. This hurt? And he's poking me a little bit. And I go, yeah, it hurts. Nothing like yesterday when I was on the ground. He goes, how about here? He goes, same thing. It hurts, but I don't feel like I'm about to pass away or something like that. He goes, yeah, okay. Mr. Bonato, you have a gaping hole in your stomach. It's over 5 centimeters long, which is over 2 inches long. He goes, we have to close that, because food can get in there and you could be infected, and you could die. And he said, usually it's surgery. Okay. Now, let me ask you, Mr. Bonato, have you been under any stress lately? And I said, yeah, I've been under a bunch of stress. I got thrown out of the business group that I love, and I don't even know the reason why. It was erroneous. And yes, I'm under stress, sir, doctor. He goes, okay. Well, you have what's called diverticulitis. And what we're going to do is we can do surgery, but you know what? I'm not going to operate on you tonight. I might tomorrow or the next day, depends on how you're feeling. If you call me up and say that you can't walk or anything, we're going to do surgery. But I'm going to put you on the 2 strongest antibiotics that there is. All right. And I'm going to stagger them. Okay. So you get the effects of both. And I'm going to put you on it for 14 days. And they are going to wipe you out. the combination of these two drugs, and you're going to do nothing but sleep and maybe eat a little bit and go to the bathroom. Fortunately, my wife was there to attend to me, and she was making meals for me and doing everything. And I started to feel a little bit better. And then after 2 weeks, they said, go in for another CT scan. Let's take a look at that hole. And I went to the radiology center. Same guy, same wonderful technician. And the hole closed a little bit. Not halfway, but it was closing. And so the surgeon said, you see, you know what? I've been a surgeon for 30 years. And if this was my first year as a surgeon, or a second or third or fourth year as a surgeon, I would have operated on you that night. But I didn't, because I knew there was a possibility. And you're going to be fine, Mr. Bonato. Okay. That hole is never going to close completely. That's permanent. Okay. And your days of eating popcorn are done. Okay. And you can't have any more, and don't do any seeds. You have to stay away from seeds and little peanuts and stuff like that. So you're going to have to change your diet permanently, but you're going to be fine. I said, okay. So Shannon, what do you think that I was thinking of during those 2 weeks while I was in bed?
What were you thinking of?
All I could think about is what happened to me.
Yeah.
And like, how did this happen? Still, I did not know she was a covert narcissist. And again, opinion. All right. I'm saying it's as an opinion. I said, the lady mentioned that I wrote some emails to her. What emails could I have written? And you know what happens after 2 weeks of doing nothing, your mind starts to, you're grasping at straws.
Yeah.
I said, there was a couple of emails that I sent. I'm the type of person that if I'm having a squabble with a good friend, a true friend, I'm always the first one to reach out and give them an olive branch, because if there's the slightest possibility that I was in the wrong, I'm going to apologize. Even if I don't really think, I'm going to apologize because I want to do that. And I remember doing that a couple of times with her. And I said, I apologized to her in an email. I said, could membership of, is that the emails? Did they give me an email and they read that I was sorry? And was that like an admission to guilt that I did something wrong? All I was trying to do is being a gentleman. And I said, I didn't know what was going on. So a friend called me, and he wasn't part of the business group. He was in the field of therapy. And I told him the story that I just told you in your audience for the last 5 minutes. I told him that story, and he was very silent. And he said, James, can you send me those emails where she said that you were an inmate running the asylum, and the one where she said that you were coming to her out of loneliness? I said, yeah. So I sent them to him, and he says, I am going to email you back, and it's going to be a YouTube link. I want you to watch this YouTube video. And I said, okay. He sends it to me. The title of the YouTube video, 7 Signs You're Dealing with a Covert Narcissist. And I'm like, what is a covert narcissist? What is that? I understand the word covert underneath the radar, and I understand narcissist. What covert? So I watched the video, and I call him back, and he said, okay, you watched the video. How many of the 7 characteristics did she have? If she has 3 or 4, she's probably a covert narcissist. How many did she have? And I said, well, she had all 7.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, I thought so. I didn't need to, I needed you to figure this out for yourself. I knew it when you started telling me the story. And when I started to read her emails, I knew she was a covert. Now, again, that's his opinion. And that's my opinion too. I want to make sure everybody knows opinion. So he said, okay, I'm going to send you another YouTube video. And I said, no, you're not. What's done is done. She's a covert narcissist. There's no way I'm going to get back into the business group. My name is Mud. I'm done there. I can't get it back. I've lost those cows. I'm the black sheep. They're not going to let me in. And he said, no, I am going to send you another YouTube video, and you're going to watch it. And he was a good, solid friend, so I did what he told me. Here he does. He sends me the second YouTube video, and it's about 16 minutes long. And it's a therapist, a professional therapist who specializes in narcissism. And he's from Texas, and he has the most wonderful Southern draw. And he was just like so interesting to hear. And he's talking and he's talking and he's talking. And I go, this guy knows my covert narcissist. He knows her because he's describing in detail what she did and how she reacted. He doesn't know her. He's from Texas. But I couldn't believe it. So I said, goodness gracious, this covert narcissist, there are people that fall into those categories very categorically. All right. And at that point, I started to research covert. Last thing I wanted to do was to become an expert on covert narcissism. But there you have it. So I want to describe, like you said, I will talk about covert narcissists for a little bit because I want to tell your audience how I got out of this. Okay, that's why they're tuning in, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So a covert narcissist in general, believe me, I could talk, Shannon, I could talk for 6 hours about covert narcissism.
Yeah.
And after 6 hours, I still wouldn't be done.
I know.
But yes, we had talked about this early before we came on. They have characteristics. And once you penetrate their facade,
Mm-hmm.
you can either penetrate it on purpose or by accident. I did it by accident. And if you challenge the covert narcissist, which I did multiple times, you're done. Okay. Now, your audience is probably go, what do you mean you're done? What can she do? Okay. I've peeped at her hold card. Okay. I know who she is, and she's aware of it. And apparently a covert narcissist cannot live with that. Now they absolutely have to destroy you at any cost. They will do everything and anything to do that. And Shannon, I'm not exaggerating. Maybe your audience thinks I'm a little, no, this is absolute fact. And I can tell by your nodding that you've definitely been through this before. Okay.
Yes.
So they have characteristics, and she was thinking she has to do everything to destroy me. And where should she go to do this? Where else? My business group, because she knew I had a passion about it. She knew I loved it. And she says, I'm going to take that away from. She wrote me in an email. She was going to get me kicked out of the group. And they have many, many tools. Okay. They can get people to believe anything that they want to. They can go to your colleagues, your friends, even sometimes your family members. With me, it was my colleagues. She got to my colleagues, a lot of them. By the way, there were some colleagues who didn't buy what she was selling. They knew who I was, but the majority of them, it was done. So get to you by gaslighting. They get to you by manipulation. They get to you by projection. And my covert narcissist was the queen of projection. Okay. They do it through flying monkeys. They do it through word salad, through button pushings. But she had done this very, very successfully. Okay. If it wasn't so gosh darn devious, I would call it a piece of art. But it really, it resulted to something just a little bit less than total rancidity, what had happened. Okay. So I had mentioned flying monkeys. So let's talk about flying monkeys right before I tell you how I got out of this mess. All right. What in the world is a flying monkey? Well, apparently it comes from The Wizard of Oz, which I haven't seen for over 50 years.
Oh my God, that's my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, is it? Well, apparently there's flying monkeys in there.
Those are her henchmen. Those are her minions.
The Wicked Witch of the West?
The Wicked Witch of the West.
Okay.
And she sends them to do her bidding. So they're monkeys, they wear little hats, they have wings, and they go fly out to pick up whoever she wants to terrorize or kidnap.
They wear little hats.
Little red hats.
That adorable.
Yeah.
So the covert narcissist has flying monkeys, and specifically one flying monkey. And you know who that is. Her flying monkey was the leader of membership. My friend for 5 years. I don't know what she did to get him to just treat me just awfully, but they're experts at it. And quite frankly, I felt for the leader of membership because, first of all, he was my friend. And I said, you know what? He doesn't know that she's a covert narcissist. I didn't for 5 years. I didn't know what one was. How can I expect the leader of membership to understand that she was a covert narcissist when he didn't know her 1/10 as well as I did? Okay. And so I felt for him. And I also felt because, you know what, flying monkeys are actually victims of the covert narcissist as well on a very low level. But he was a victim too. He probably doesn't even know it to this day. He probably doesn't know. And he was the flying monkey who really got rid of me while my covert narcissist had her hands clean. She didn't do anything. She stepped away. She was probably giggling about it.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, again, I don't know what she was doing. So I tell you, Shannon, I actually had an issue with the leader of the membership leader, because even though this flying monkey business was one thing, but he knew me. He knew the man that I was, and he knew me for a long time. And he knew how I cared about the group. He knew how I cared about her, how I got her into the thing. He knew that I cared about him. I always stood by him. Okay. And quite frankly, he was the one who could have stopped this madness. He could have, if he just took me aside as a friend, or just even as the leader of membership, and explained to me. But he never did. He sent me an email in the middle of the night saying, "You're gone." And I used to look up to this guy, and I to say that I was disappointed in how he handled it is an understatement. But anyway, that was that. So how in the world did I get out of this? Okay. So I am assuming that in your audience, there are a lot of people in pain. Okay. And I know what you're going through, you people out there. Okay. I've been there. I've experienced it. And there's fire all around you. And you're in the middle of hell right now. And you're probably like me, and you thought you would never get out of this hell. You thought it was a permanent condition. It is not. Beyond that firewall is peace. But you can't see it right now because there's flames in front of you. But there is peace there, and you've got to know that it's there. And there's a couple of things that I would suggest and I would point out to you. The first thing is know who you are. Know how you are, who you are deep inside. Okay? Because your enemy, whether it be a covert narcissist or some other foe, is always going to try and paint you to the rest of the world as you having an issue. Okay? Covert narcissists or not. Okay? And that reflection is that they're trying to reflect to the rest of the world is actually a reflection of themselves. That's that projection that I was talking about. Okay. It's their issues, and they're going to paint them as yours. And you have to know that whatever they tell you ain't worth a tic-tac. All right. And they're not going to dictate to you what you're going to be like for the rest of your life. No, they're not. You are going to survive this. I'm telling you, you're going to survive this. The goodness in you is going to rise to the top. Maybe not today or tomorrow or next week, but eventually it's going to rise, and people will see that in you, and your friends will see that in you. The friends that you thought that you lost. And believe it or not, the real friends, those are the people that you need to be going to talk to. You have to talk it out. I was very lucky. I had a slew of friends. All right. And I talked to every one of them from what I just explained here. And by the way, Shannon, this is the first time I've ever told this story publicly. Okay. My close friends know about it, but this is the first time I've ever spoken to it on camera and in the public. So yes, I spoke to those people. And I also had my wife of 36 years who has always stood by me thick and thin through everything. So I had her. Now, I had remembered, Shannon, that I felt that the world was looking at me through this smudged and smeared camera lens that my covert narcissist was shooting me with. All right. And I said, goodness gracious, I'm in hell here. How am I going to get out of this? I feel like I'm in a boxing match and I've been knocked down to the canvas and I'm down for the count and I've got a broken nose and I'm bloody. And how am I going to get out of this? And I went through a period, Shannon, woe is me. I felt sorry for myself, and maybe there was a little bit of merit to that, but I knew that I couldn't stay in woe is me forever. And for your audience too, you too can't, they too can't stay in this woe is me attitude. Okay. But that woe is me, that's part of that fire. All right. And what's the alternative? To stay there in the fire and curl up into a little ball, into a fetal position? No, you're going to rise up and get out of it. And it was my decision, my choice to rise up and get out of it. And it's your choice too. You may think that it's under somebody else's control, and it may be to a certain thing, but it's actually your choice. Okay. Now, right now, your heart is sick. Your heart is sick, and you have to own that. What you don't confront, you can't conquer. And you have to talk to people to be free. Okay? I had to talk to people to be free. And there's plenty of people out there to talk to. I mean, they can be friends, they can be family, they can be therapists, they can be anything. Okay? And you have to talk to those people to get out of it. Now, in explaining all this, there's a couple of things that I have to say. While you're in the fire, while you're in hell right now, believe it or not, there's something to look forward to. All right? Watch this. Okay? When you're in the middle of hell, you know that you're going to get out of it. Okay? And when you do, look forward to this. You are going to become a stronger person. Okay? You're going to become wiser. You're going to become a little bit softer, in fact, because once you go through all this crap, you're going to appreciate things and you're going to be a little bit softer. You're also going to grow exponentially. Okay? That growth and that exponential growth wouldn't have happened if you had this crap happen to you. So there's a silver lining. Shall we call it a silver lining? I don't know. Let's call it a silver lining. Okay? Now, you will be able to grow. Your covert narcissist, whoever it is not going to grow. If it's covert narcissists, they're absolutely not going to grow. As a matter of fact, they get worse with age. The only thing with age with the covert narcissist is they become a better covert narcissist. Okay? But you're going to grow exponentially. Okay? And here's what's going to happen. You're going to wake up each morning and you're going to go to the bathroom mirror and look at it. And you're going to have perseverance staring back at you. Okay. Resiliency is going to reflect. You're going to find that tenacity that you once had. You're going to get that back. And if you didn't have tenacity before, you sure got it now. It's now part of your repertoire. It's now part of your MO. Okay. So that's a wonderful thing that happens to you. Okay. I have to confess something, Shannon. I have to confess something. All right.
Yes.
The
Please,
whole covert.
confess.
Okay. All right. The whole covert narcissist situation, part of it was on me. Part of it was on me. Okay. Because in those early years, I told you I saw little things in it and I ignored them. And moreover, I more than tolerated them. I said, you know what? At one point I realized, I said, you know what? She's never going to realize the friend that she had in me. She's not going to understand that I'm her friend. She never will. And even though I knew that, I kept going. That was stupid and naive. Okay. I was trying to fix her. And it's not my responsibility to fix her. And for those in the audience here watching, it's not your responsibility either to fix the person who's causing you the harm. In most cases, okay? I didn't know that, okay? And so there I was thinking that I could fix her. And when I got back that, I started reflecting on what happened to me. And I came back to the black sheep and I said, I don't know if anybody in the audience has been referred to a black sheep or maybe a synonym of that. Okay. But do you believe that you're a black sheep? Who called you a black sheep? Who called you that? And do you believe it? Okay. As for the black sheep with me, I embraced it. I said, you know what? I'm going to go a little bit deeper in the definition of a black sheep and think, you know what? Maybe I'm just different. All right. And maybe I'm intimidating people. And maybe that's what I did. Maybe that was part of the reason why I got thrown out. Who knows? Maybe I intimidated. Maybe people were jealous of me. Maybe that's what drew the attack on me. Okay. So I went through that. But the funny thing is, and here I'm going to wind everything up here. All right. Before the Covert Narcissist, I used to be a really emotional guy. And when there were these emotional movies, I used to cry like a baby. I would get really emotional about all these movies and I would just cry. And the little things in life, I used to also just marvel at them. And they would make me whimper too. I would look at the beauty of the smallest things and I would almost tear up, probably because I'm an empath. I feel the people's pain. When the Covert Narcissist situation came along, was all gone. I was not crying at movies, and I saw nothing. I saw no little wonderful parts of life. I didn't appreciate anything. It was totally gone. When I emerged from it, which I have now, I'm back to crying at movies now. Okay,
Good.
yes, and the little things I see in life, I just treasure them so much because I happen to know that love is the cornerstone of humanity. Okay. And it's the littlest things, like, for instance, when I'm coming home from a job real late at night, my wife, she leaves the porch light on for me. And I'm looking at a porch light and I'm about to cry because it's such a little thing that I'm so moved by. In the morning, when I come downstairs, she has a banana and an orange on the kitchen table for me every morning. And I'm choking up for little things like that. So I am not trying to tell your audience that my way is the only way out of it. It's opinion that I've been giving, and that was my answer, my way up the mountain. But for the people watching this podcast, there's many paths up the mountain. Just take one.
I love that, James. Thank you so much. So, yeah, here's where the questions come in, and also a comment I'd like to make, because I love all of the things that you said. Is it's difficult when you're dealing with someone who is a narcissist. Now, I don't know if all narcissists are borderline or if narcissism is just a sign of borderline. Again, not a doctor. But I do know that a lot of times the two conditions in terms of personality disorders overlap. So there are two things I want to say. One is that it can be very difficult when you're dealing with a narcissist or a borderline person because they lack self-awareness. And it's difficult because if it were anyone else, if I offended you right now, you could just set a boundary and say, hey, I didn't like that. I'm going to stop having communication with you. And let's just say I said something really mean. And you're like, yeah, I don't need that energy in my life. Block. And then it's over. You're like, good, I stood up for myself. The problem is if someone has borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder or both, they won't just rest there. And so you do kind of have to be careful with how you handle it, because if they feel slighted, as you said, or if you shatter the illusion that they've built, or you've even called them out, because part of them believes their own lies. So they feel very threatened when somebody sees through them. Then that's when they lash out. And so you do have to handle them a little bit differently, because they will do things like they're vindictive and manipulative. So part of, I think, Another thing that I'd love to offer is self-forgiveness, because I dealt with a friend too, a girlfriend who I now understand had borderline personality, pathological lying. I don't know about narcissism. And I look back and I think, how did I not know that? She told me she was dying of AIDS. She told me she was having kidney dialysis and that I was the only person that she had told that she had AIDS and she was going to die. She wanted me to call her mother to tell her that when she died. She told me she was engaged to be married. Then when I said I'd like to meet the person, oh, we broke up. She told me that she had random sex in a Starbucks bathroom one day. She told me that her boss was spying on her. Just these, she was getting this reaction because I too am an empath, right? And she knew she was a lesbian, and she told me that she sort of preyed on me in this sort of weird way with it's interesting because now I look back and I'm like, I think that was her way of sort of having closeness with me, because I'm not gay and she was. So what she did is she catfished me as a guy. So we had a mutual friend, and she was his music manager's assistant. She told me that he wanted to date me. Now, this kid was like way too young for me. She told me he wanted to date me. I was like, I mean, he's really young, but he's cute. She told him that I was hot for him. I wasn't. So we ended up sort of getting hooked up together. And afterwards, she told me he called me a slut and a whore, and told him, I don't know what she told him. It was like she used him. She would message me, but using his account because she had access to it. And it was like she manipulated this whole thing where we probably would have never even dated had she not orchestrated this whole thing in a way to sort of have this vicarious relationship with me. I don't really understand. And through all of this, I think, how did you not see? I mean, her lies were so, but she would look you in the eye and tell you the details, like every little detail, so that it's almost like she believed her own lies. And it just got more complicated and more complicated. And she would call me and tell me these things. She was pitting people against me and me against other people, and telling me that this guy thought I was a slut, told me that he went to jail, told me all these lies about him, told him all these lies about me. And ultimately, I have to say that, but you don't know what you don't know. So the self-forgiveness is part of it. I mean, she preyed on my empathy because she didn't have any friends left. So what you said about, it was interesting when you said that you were sick, and what did I think about for 2 weeks? So all of this was going on, and I had the flu, and I was just bored, and I was like, something's not right here. So I Googled her name, and what did I find? An article written by her that said, "My life as a pathological liar," by her name, that she had written for an LGBTQ publication. It was all about how her doctor, her therapist said, "You're a psychopath. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you murder somebody." And also, she had left another city. She told me it was because her girlfriend died of cancer. She told another friend, like, she told me she got AIDS one way. She told another girl she got AIDS another way. But what the truth was that she had told so many lies in that city that she had no friends left. So she moved to LA. And this whole thing was so wild. But at the end of the day, and then I was like, oh my God, I mean, what are the odds there'd actually be an article written by her detailing, I am borderline, I've been diagnosed with borderline personality, pathological lying. Later, she took it down, but why would I think someone would ever lie about that? She preyed on me because she was like, oh, I don't have many friends, and I'm just this lovable little charming person with a pretty successful job. And now I can see it a mile away. I can sniff out a borderline. You do say 2 words to me, I'm like, borderline. Like, I already know. When you said we probably have a narcissist in your life, nope, don't, because I know now. I know what they look like. I know what they smell like. I can sense it. But that's because at the age of 30, I had never had any encounters like this with somebody. I couldn't imagine someone would be that completely batshit crazy. Like, I did not know that people were capable of something. So I also think I'm just chiming in with forgiveness, self-forgiveness, and understanding that how would you know? Why would you ever imagine something so bananas? What say you, James, about that?
Well, I did forgive my covert narcissist. And for some reason, I found it very easy to forgive her because she has an illness.
Yes.
And there is no therapy for that. And I feel for her to a certain degree. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never said that to her face, but in my heart, I did. And boy, you certainly have proved that you're an expert on this subject. I could tell right
I
away.
mean, I could tell you, I could, like you said, I could talk about it for hours. And then I've had my best friends deal with people with borderline. And again, it's a very strange thing because I do have compassion for what leads somebody to have a personality disorder. Now, sometimes you're born with it because it's hereditary, but a lot borderline, for example, you're born with a propensity for to have for a propensity for it. However, it's triggered by trauma. So a lot of people that have borderline, they're going to pathologically lie. They're going to mirror you. They're going to copycat. It's like a single white female. That's borderline behavior. It's not having a sense of self. It's the part of the brain that develops when you're a child. And if you endure trauma, well, your amygdala grows bigger because you are in fear all the time. So what gets them there is very sad. And I don't know that every single borderline has been through trauma, but I mean, just again, my non-medical, my non-professional opinion is that, and just from all the research I've done, is that, it's very unfortunate that most people had severe abuse or severe trauma. That's why they are the way they are. They've developed they're terrified of being abandoned. So they're going to manipulate and try to get you into their web because they need your constant validation. They need to fantasize. They need to tell themselves stories for self-soothing because their anxiety is through the roof, which I have immense compassion for because most of them end up taking their own lives because it's such a painful condition to have. So yes, there's compassion and there's also don't come near me. Like I won't come near you with a 10-foot pole. I may pray for you. I hope that you find help. But as you said, there's no treatment for it. Now, some borderlines, for example, will be self-aware enough to say, hey, I may not feel remorse or compassion, but I don't want to live in this chaos anymore. And they may get treatment and be able to say, hey, I have borderline. And I know a few people who know of some people that have done that. And they say, I am making it a priority to be in a therapist's care because I don't want to hurt people because I don't like what happens in my life when that happens. And I want to be able to have friends who don't abandon me, who don't leave because they can't handle it anymore. So there is a friend of mine went to Pepperdine and became a therapist, and she was taught, don't treat a borderline. They'll end up stalking you. They don't have the self-awareness to be able to get better. You're in danger because they will be manipulative. So granted, if someone's like, hey, I'm borderline and I really want to get help, then of course they deserve that help and good for them. So it's a tough thing, right? Where it's like, you have to forgive them for not knowing better and forgive yourself for not knowing better because narcissists are so charming. And I've dated several of them and I had no idea. And I remember my friend saying, I don't like that guy. He's fake. And I was like, he's the most charming person. How could you not like this guy? He's the most charming. Something's not right. Well, I just see the best in everyone. So I would think, no, he's like so loving and so friendly. And then later I found out about the lies or the manipulation or those things. But it is easy to fall prey to these people because
Well,
they will be your perfect partner or friend.
especially you and I, because we're both empaths.
Empaths. Mm-hmm.
We're unfortunately a perfect match for covert narcissists because we give them the validation that they need. So,
yes.
Yeah, but I can spot a covert narcissist like that now.
Me too.
Yeah, so too. And you hit on something about going down. It was told to me that many people, in order to get better, I don't know if it was borderline personality or just anybody, that you have to hit rock bottom. And the reasoning of that is because if you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually kind of want to disagree with that. I was in depression and I was sick, but I didn't hit rock bottom. I think it's an individual thing. And so I don't want to classify, a blanket thing for everybody. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's it's wonderful what you're doing. Um, because so many people I didn't know. And I think that if you're not focusing on it, you're not going to notice personality disorders right off the bat. And so it is like I said, it doesn't mean we don't have compassion. I don't want to bash anybody who has a mental illness and who's really cognizant of it and working on it. I want to actually send them love and say, I'm really
Yes.
glad that you're addressing this. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Um, it's just that it's kind of dangerous to associate with somebody who's unhealed and not aware. And so we do have to protect ourselves. It doesn't mean, I believe everyone deserves love, but unfortunately, you have to put yourself first, right? So say what you were going to say. Yeah,
A little bit about that of what you just
please.
said is in my documentary film. Okay, because I made
Yeah.
the film to educate people on what a covert narcissist is, and also to let fellow victims know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And I gave them a platform because, I don't know about you, but I could not come to people and say, covert narcissist, let me explain what it is. And flying monkey, I couldn't do all that. They would
Yeah.
think that I'm crazy, and it would almost give the covert narcissist more ammunition. Like, you see, I told you about James Banato. But I made that movie, the documentary film, also to give them a platform because they weren't able to say it. But now they can watch the film and say, see, look what happened. There are 3 therapists in the film, Shannon. I have 3 professional therapists who deal with narcissism in the film. And I have 3 stories. And I show a little bit of the story, and then I have the therapist explain what you just saw, and it goes back and forth. But now I've given them a voice, victims a voice. So that's
Exactly. Yeah, it's really important. And it can be really difficult when somebody is spreading lies about you or trying to ruin your life. And you look like the crazy one. And the thing is that the more you react, like if you had reached out to everybody, then they're going to see he's crazy. See, he's out of control. He can't control he has no boundaries. And it's difficult because we sometimes just have to, as you said, know ourselves and say, you know what? I know who I am. I don't have to prove it. And the people who know me, they know me enough to know that this is not me. And that can be really difficult because it's difficult to be misunderstood and to be able to sit in the discomfort of being judged and misperceived when you know. So it's but it is so important that's where grounding ourselves comes in, right? Like I love myself and I just have to know that the truth will come out. It will come out. You will gain trust back, but you don't have to fall all over yourself to do it because that's what they want, because it'll make you look even more crazy.
I just want to hug you right
I
now.
know, I know
Because
I
what
think
you
we just
said,
started a support group. Yeah.
yeah. I'm glad that you could see that in me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's always helpful.
Yeah. James Banato, thank you so very much for reaching out to me to know that your story would be something that would be appropriate for this program. It's not something I would have thought to seek out, and I'm so glad that you presented it. And B, thank you for your vulnerability, for sharing your story, which can be scary. You're like, are they going to see it? Are they going to do more stuff? But just in the hopes of helping other people to protect themselves, and also to just remember that it's kind of like my mom used to say when I was a kid, this too shall pass. And sometimes, it could have been worse. I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been better. But the bottom line was that you're living your life. And it's at the time stressful. A hole can explode in your stomach, but that we can overcome and we can move forward, and that you will have a chance to voice your story, which you just have done right now. So I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you for giving me the platform.
My absolute pleasure.